Hey, housewives, come on in. You know the dirty dishes are still in the sink and the laundry is still in the basket. Pop your AirPods in and make yourself at home here. I'm Tori.
I'm Tracy.
And we are your Unlikely Housewives.
Stepping out in faith and believing that God calls the unlikely, we are here to show you the appreciation and validation you deserve, lead you to authentic relationships, and release you from believing the cultural lies to restore your faith and wellness.
Pull up those high-waisted yoga pants, tighten your top knot, and reheat your coffee for the third time today. Turn up the volume, and let's go.
Hey, housewives, welcome back.
Hey, how are you guys doing?
It is the time to wrap up season 1.
I cannot believe this. Now, in all fairness, you guys, we did not see us having seasons.
Nope.
And we thought that we were going to do this continuously. We are, but we didn't see seasons.
Not at all.
In the way that it played out.
I think that kind of came out of the virtual conference we did about a month ago. We just started seeing some opportunities for us to take this break. And this is a super busy season in our lives.
Well, in all mama's lives, if you have a kid in school, I don't care what age they are, from preschool to this is the time where all the things start to happen. Teacher Appreciation Week, field days, field trips,
and the concerts, the music,
the last minute stuff. Yep.
But hey, aren't we happy they're happening?
Yes. We're so excited. So excited.
Yeah, they are. It is time. This year feels so nice to be wrapping up the school year like that.
Yeah, it's going to be good. So it's a great way to kick off summer. And we are excited to share with you guys a little bit about our summer series here at the end of today's episode. But before we do that, I am going to read our latest review. This one is near and dear to my personal heart because this is from my I could call her a life partner. She has been with me for 30 plus years. This one is from Jess, and she says, I have known Tori my whole life, and it's never a dull moment with her. And this podcast is no different. Every episode, I find things I can relate to and reflect on in my own life. I love that every episode leads back to God and his plan for our lives. The ladies are so open and vulnerable, and that truly sets them apart from other podcasts. Whether I'm laughing or crying, it's always entertaining. You make a great team. I look forward to all the ones to come. And we're going to take a break.
They will come this summer too.
Yes.
We'll be sharing reviews. And we'll continue that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jess. I just adore you. And y'all, she claimed me. She said she's known me her whole life. So
there you go.
That's a compliment, I see. Not everybody claims me, and that's okay.
Yeah, I do. Absolutely.
You have to now. You're on a podcast with me.
Yeah, we're stuck together.
Exactly. Our names will always be tied together.
Yep.
So let's talk about kind of what we had thoughts about what this podcast is. What our plan was for this one. We kind of went back and forth for a while about different ideas of, snippets and adding the bloopers and behind the scenes stuff. But in the end, we decided to pull out some of the stuff that was just meaningful to us through some of our most popular episodes.
Yeah, we wanted to highlight what we felt was most impactful moments for us, whether it was funny or inspirational. We had a lot of incredible guests on. I mean, we're talking 25 episodes is where we're at today. And there was a lot of ground covered. There was a lot of topics, there was a lot of funny moments and there was a lot of tears, And I think from episode 1 to where we are now, there's been so much growth. We're going to touch on that at the end, but there was so much that we have covered. It was hard to pick out those things. But I think because we have an incredible, engaging community that is growing, you and I each received messages on, oh my gosh, this stuck with me or this stuck with me. And those are the things we do want to touch on. 1, to say thank you for telling us that. And 2, because if you haven't listened, we want you to go back and catch those moments.
Yes. What you guys are going to hear today is these clips from, like I said, our most downloaded episodes, but they aren't necessarily the ones that we thought when we recorded them were going to be our top of the chart ones either. And so it's really interesting to see what people are resonating with, what they're sharing, and what they're listening to again. And so that's kind of been fun.
Well, and something else that, so you guys kind of know what Tori and I go through. I mean, we will record an episode and at the end of it, one of us will be like, ooh, I didn't like it. And the other one was like, oh my gosh, I thought it was amazing.
Yeah.
And so we both have had those episodes. And what's so crazy is you guys have given us feedback on those that, one of us were a little apprehensive about, and they've been amazing. So obviously we know God is using everything we say to reach those who need to hear it. So let's start with episode 1. This episode was Unapologetic.
Yep.
And we just wanted to say, hey, I'm not who I used to be, and that's okay. And that is what we started with. We talked about our move, and we talked about just how much you and I kind of got lost in the pandemic, the growth we had, and what brought us to this podcast. And we have a little clip to share with you.
Yes.
God truly calls the unlikely. And there's a little bit of that in everybody. Every single one of God's people are unlikely.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the Bible, obviously, every single Bible story is an incredible example of that.
So that sums up our whole purpose of this podcast is God calls the unlikely.
And that's really what, when we originally were coming up with this, title, and we've told you we had a lot of different ideas, but ultimately God calling the unlikely and us finding that in ourselves and being so confident in just following his purpose, no matter what it felt like. Because trust me, we had some not so good feelings about this from time to time.
110%. But we've also had some ramifications.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's be clear. This podcast has cost us not just resource wise, but it has cost us life experiences. We've had to sacrifice some things, but we have lost things in the process of putting this podcast together.
Yeah.
And some of those needed to be pruned, and then some of those have hurt.
Yeah.
And we are still kind of like, oh, was that something I wanted to let go?
Mm-hmm.
And looking back on that makes me cry.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking I was going to cry on this one. Damn you, Tracy.
This is what we do though. But that, I mean, really that's when we said, hey, we're going to do this. It was going to take time and energy. And, it's been hard. People will say, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? And, for us, it's, no, we can't. Like, we have our days set. We have our time set that we work and we market and we plan and we write and we pray and we put our material out there in hopes that you will walk away. And that is exactly what episode 1 was. I'm telling you, I feel like we worked how long on just episode 1?
I would like to say 6 months. That would actually feels like it.
And that is obviously, it is our top episode. Actually, I think our next one may have passed it, but it is one of those that we want you to go back and listen to and really hear that you are not probably who you were before the pandemic. And that's okay. And to tap into that unlikeliness that is in you and see where that takes you in this next year.
And I want to remind people that, and I always go to the Noah story because everybody knows Noah, but building the ark wasn't overnight, right? It took him 120 years and he lost people. People thought he was crazy. People didn't understand why he was no longer doing what the things that he was doing, why he walked away from that to do something. And they're like, it's not even raining, you fool.
Mm-hmm.
And that has been hard.
Absolutely. We both have experienced some of that. Like, where were you? What have you been doing? But God was pruning. We were spending so much time with him in order for it to turn into this. And we've been celebrating with those of you that have been following us for a while. I mean, we are growing incredibly to be at 25 episodes and well over 6,000 downloads and still growing every single day. Someone clicks on Unlikely. That's amazing.
Yeah. And exactly. And that just it reminds us that
we're doing what he asked us to do.
Yep. Okay.
Now we got to move on to a little bit more fun and light because that was just too much.
Yes, it was. This is probably, I want to say this next clip was officially my first unrecorded foot and mouth that we didn't have cred cut out because it was just me talking and then life happened. So we're going to play for the clip for you first and then we're going to back up.
Okay, so really quickly, this episode is number 6, Unfinished, the Hangover of Resolutions. And the reason that we did this episode, we were talking about how with each new year, there's always the hangover of resolutions, like something that we're dealing with in the previous year. Like it doesn't just stop. It just shows up in the next year too. So we were kind of talking about that. And that is what led us to this clip.
I feel really bad for people like Betty White. I mean, at what point do you just go, oh my God, okay, God, let me tap out. I am so done with this.
Oh, the Golden Girls.
I know.
Who would you be if you were a Golden Girl?
I did not watch it.
Oh gosh, this is one of those moments where my age, being a little bit older than you, showing. Dang it.
Do you remember Designing Women though?
Oh, well, yes, I do.
Okay, Designing Women was good. I like that show.
That's more your style. Oh, I love it. Okay.
Is it Blanche? I was I probably
you still work because she's extra. Yeah,
exactly.
So you.
Exactly. Okay. So, in case you were wondering, we knew which Golden Girl I was.
Yes, that
which
is true.
one were you?
Well, I'm always the mom everywhere. Like,
that's true.
So I don't want to say that I'm like the crusty old grandma. I can't remember her name, but I was probably more like Dorothy.
Yeah, I was going to say Dorothy. Who was Dorothy's mom? What was her name?
I don't remember.
There are people yelling at the podcast right now.
I know.
It is such and such.
Yeah.
Because she always said that might also have been me too.
Dang it. That's going to make me mad.
So I clearly know now that Sophia was Dorothy's mother on the Golden Girls.
The unfiltered one of the bunch.
And
for sure.
Yeah, I try to be, but I mean, it's just sometimes that mouth comes out.
Yeah, exactly. But God, that mouth. That's sometimes.
So our whole Betty White comment there came out of nowhere.
Oh my gosh. Okay, y'all. So to give you a behind the scenes moment on this clip in particular, we recorded this episode on the 16th of December. It was released on the 28th and Betty White passed away on the 31st. So I'm not going to say it was our fault.
But you did tell her to tap out.
I did tell her to tap out. So I'd like you to know that Betty White was an unlikely housewife.
She sure was.
She was. But that was something. And then to say that we had to go back to our editor.
Be like, could you put a disclaimer on that, please?
Could you please but I don't know that today, because we were, under 10 episodes. I don't know that I would have put the same disclaimer. I don't know that I would worried about a disclaimer today.
Not. But we had just started.
Right.
We weren't even, we released 3 episodes on the first date, which was December 7th. So this was like super current, super new. We're like, we're new podcasters. We were just like,
this is going to make us look absolutely horrible people. But it was really interesting on the timing of that. But
it was fun.
It was fun.
And we love Betty and we love the Golden Girls. And you may see
and she's an incredible role model of a woman who has continued to work and run her life and has done it her way all the way.
Yep.
So I need somebody to do a biography on that.
Maybe one of our kids will one of these days.
Oh, that's better. A book report. And so we could just read the Cliff Notes.
Yeah.
I'm going to need you to do that.
All right. We're going to move to episode 11, Fostering Through a Pandemic. And this was special and near and dear to our heart because it was our first guest, and to our dear friend Stephanie, who has foster and adopted 6 children. And so her story was incredible, giving us the perspective of what it was like in, having to go through the system during a pandemic. But before we get to what she said, we got to share a little blooper with you.
Yes.
And we're not going to sell ourselves short. We are going to have a couple of men here and there, potential husbands, a couple of doctors.
Potential husbands?
Well,
who knows
about that later?
I may still be looking.
Shh, don't tell Andrew.
I was saying potentially our husbands. We have to bribe them first. Good night.
There we go.
Okay.
The clarification is probably needed.
Yes.
Okay. That was foreshadowing. I want to say foreshadowing the fact that we were talking about getting our husbands on this podcast.
That is what you meant.
That is
potentially
our husbands. It did not come out that way. But because I also was, probably saying that too, because if, after the ringer that we have put through our husbands on this podcast, I feel like the scheduling, the time commitment, the venting, the crying, the laughing, like, oh my God,
the
financial, you won't believe what we did. And they're just going, And at the time, our husbands have only listened to 2 episodes.
Right.
Like, yeah. So, I mean, it is surprising that they haven't just dropped us. And be like,
no, I think after hearing, and you'll hear in a minute, but after hearing their episodes with us, I think they're pretty proud.
Yes.
Okay, well, let's share with you one more clip of something that Stephanie had to share that I would love us to chat about.
It was not good at all. It was not good at all. And I just felt like I had no voice. And I reached out in many different ways, communicated. And it was, this is what we have to do to keep the kids safe. And while I respect physical safety, there's also an element of mental health safety.
Yeah.
And I feel like those definitions were defined differently than I would define them. As raising children from hard places.
Well, we absolutely loved Stephanie sharing how she was a mom, speaking from walking through not just hard place in general, having foster kids in the schools during a pandemic. Well, actually out of the schools, because that was the difficulty. If you listen to the full episode, we talk about the schooling in and out with the kids and how challenging it was. But the ultimate thing she was saying was she felt like she had no voice. And I think so many moms felt that during the pandemic, whether your kids were in school or not. And all of this has challenged us to be so much more advocating for our children. And there's so much more of that that's happened since this episode.
It was so good because we had talked about guests and we had always known that we had wanted Stephanie on the episode, and to know who our guests have been after Stephanie, like her place was like the perfect precursor to everybody that we've had since with Katie and BJ and Sylvia, and to have that and just continue to talk about advocating for our children.
Yeah.
And it's different for all of us. And that is the beauty and the hard part about it, is that it's not the same and we're not all advocating for the same things.
Yeah. And if that's something that you have someone in your life that you know has foster kids or adopted kids or just have kids that experience trauma, this is an excellent episode to share with them.
Absolutely. It really is a good one. And Stephanie has done a phenomenal job. So the next episode we're sharing with you guys is unhealthy head trash. This was one we did, and the timing of it was mid-January. And it was it right before we got the news? We were on the news? Right.
Yeah.
Because it was out. It was the last episode that was out when we got our...
But when we recorded it, I was sick. And so we were separate. This was the one that was so hard because we weren't like jiving off of each other like we did. But we were like, oh, we're so much better in the same room.
Yes. To give you a little of background, the first episode that we shared, Unlikely, we were together with 2 microphones recording on the Zoom platform. Okay. If you lived through 20 and 2021, you know what Zoom is.
Yes.
Okay. That's what we knew. That's what we used. Then Stephanie was our first guest, and we tried recording that in my dining room. That did not sound good. Then we lovingly moved her to my closet. Yep. So we were all 3 of us huddled on my closet floor in front of a microphone, again on Zoom, and recording it there. And then this one was when we had to do Zoom separately. And so you think that it's just as easy as turning on a mic. It's not by any means. Our equipment, our platforms, things that we have done have changed and evolved because we have realized that what's best for us and what works for us is something. We're not a one-man show. It's a lot different when you have a co-host.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right, we're going to play this clip.
Let's talk.
All right.
Toxic.
Exactly. It makes me think of the Britney Spears song. Anybody else, 90s kids, that toxic, you're going to have that song playing in the back of your head all day. All right. So let's break it down. The first letter is T, and T is for talk. Self-talk, that is.
Yes. Yep. Negative self-talk. I mean, we would love for it to be all positive, but we are 2 women who understand that is not always the case. We tell ourselves stories, sadly.
Exactly. Well, when we look in the mirror, there's absolutely a story there. And we tell ourselves things over and over and over again. And it doesn't mean that it's necessarily true.
Okay, so who's done this? Who's told themselves something and accepted it as truth and believed it and beat yourself up over it?
If you've said no, you're lying.
Yeah. Women.
Yes.
We know some have it harder than others, but negative self-talk is probably, just our minds in general. It's one of our greatest battles.
And I would even say that a lot of times we don't even realize it's negative. It's the truth that we tell ourselves. I was scrolling Instagram this morning and I saw somebody share that her therapist shared with her that you only have to think about something 200 times for that thought for you to consider it truth. So how easy is it for us to, if every single time we pass the mirror and we say, oh my God, I need to lose 5 pounds, you pass by a mirror every hour, half hour. If you're in and out of your bedroom, bathroom. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But that just 200 times. That's crazy to me.
Yeah. Well, and I think we all need to just find out what that one thing is and work there. Like if it is about your appearance or if it is about a dream that you have that you're not pursuing, there's something that's holding you back from being your best self, being truly happy and at peace. And you need to tell yourself, I'm not settling here. I'm not staying here. But go back and listen to that full episode if that is you, because we really do talk about all the things that are toxic that causes us to have that heavy head trash. It's a really good episode.
All right. So our next one is perfect in time for Mother's Day. It's one of my
favorites.
I know it is.
It really is.
It's the one you mention all the time. You refer to it more than I think any other one.
Yeah. And I think it's simple. You're actually a good mom. We all need to remember that. We're in this mom and game together and it is not easy and no one has it figured out.
Yes. True that. All right. We've got 2 clips for this one, but we'll go ahead and play in the first one.
We both have walked through so much mom shaming, especially in these last few years. And more recently, you've seen it. And that's where the mom guilt comes in, is you see the posts, you see the announcements, you see the way people are living differently than what you're thinking and believing right now. And that causes so much question of, am I doing this right? Am I good enough? I don't care what side of the political aisle you sit on. I don't care what side of the just culture that we are walking through and living through right now. Whatever you are doing for you and your family and your kids is right for you. You're a good mom. That's the story that needs to be told.
So, mom shaming, it's a real thing and it's only gotten, I want to say, worse because people feel so free to say whatever they want.
Mm-hmm. And it makes you question, am I good enough?
Right. Am I doing this right?
Am I doing what my kids need?
Right. And you're comparing yourself with others. You're even comparing yourself to your parents, good or bad, and going, well, my parents didn't do it. Well, they didn't have social media with our kids. There's so many differences. If we're able to have more of a tunnel vision when it comes to acceptance of what we are doing, I think as long as you and your husband are on the same page, when it comes to parenting, at the end of the day, that's it.
Yep. That's all that's needed.
And we have to remember that a rebellious kid is not a reflection of how you parent. And too many times we take it personally, like, what did I do? Why is this my fault? One, all of our children are given free will. This is something that BJ and Sylvia talk about in the beginning of episode 24. But 2, think about it from, I'm not going to remember if I said this in that episode or not, but God in the garden, Adam and Eve had everything and it was perfection. And Satan still got in there, still got in their ear, still caused them to doubt, question, to sin. And that is not a reflection of God's goodness, period. End of story.
Mamas, he's out after us and our hearts too, so that we don't raise our kids the way we know that God wants us to. So please be remembering that you are doing exactly what you need to for your family. So we're going to share one more clip.
We're doing the best we can. So you're not going to get any judgment here from oh my gosh, that's what she's doing with her kids. No, not from us.
Not from us. We're here to be we want you nodding
and like air fist bumping us. Like, yeah, girls, we get you.
Okay, well, I hope you did air fist bump us.
The other thing too is if you did, or if you said preach, amen, go ahead, pause this episode, hit 5 stars on it. We'll take that as a yes, I agree with you, and I needed to hear that. So
yeah, and we really do hope you took it to heart that you are doing the best that you can, and we're not to shame, we're not to hold guilt. We are all in this mom and game together.
Yep.
All right. Well, we're going to shift gears to our next episode, number 13. This was a little bit more of an emotional one, but one that was truly incredible as our friend Jill shared her infertility journey. And we called this episode Mama in Waiting. And this episode really takes us through her entire journey. And we laughed and we cried. And if you have anyone who has been trying to conceive or has lost a child, this is an episode for them. So here's a little clip.
Are you going to cry about it or boss up? Yeah. And you're like, first of all, I'm going to do both. Like, that's me to the T. First of all, I'm going to do both. Yes. I'm going to have a moment and feel, but you bet your ass I'm going to like lawnmower it down.
Yeah.
I probably need therapy. So there you go. That's you're like your personality. You need professional help. Yeah, probably. No.
Therapy's good for everybody.
Yeah, I was going to say that should just be part of like, but yeah. Absolutely. Oh, you're live. Let's get you therapist. So
I'm there. Yeah. Let's go.
Still a firm believer that we all need a therapist. Yes.
Well, and that was kind of a lighthearted moment out of that, like deep and, heartfelt episode. But it really, with the conversation came about of, hey, like we have this desire to try to fix everything on ourselves, and all of the emotions and all the things that we deal with. And guys, I'm pro therapy.
Absolutely. And you have so many options now. Hashtag not an ad.
Yeah.
But there are services, if you are an avid podcast listener, I could name 4 or 5 that are online now where you can be matched with a therapist in 48 hours. And you can be doing Zoom calls with them. You can be texting them. You can be having a phone call with them. Like, we have incredible access to that. And it's not as expensive as you thought or might think. So if that is something that you truly have been debating, questioning about, feel free to message me. I can send you some resources or whatever. But do yourself a favor, because there's so much goodness when you have an open heart and you can just say it to somebody else. Sometimes that's all you need.
Yes, processing it. So, and that's what we were talking about with this episode. And I think we've brought up therapy numerous times in different episodes. And really what we're just saying is you don't have to do this stuff on your own. Sometimes your spouse doesn't get it. Sometimes a friend doesn't get it if they're walking through it or not walking through what you're walking through. So reach out and talk to a therapist. So on this episode, we actually have a really piece of incredible advice that Jill gave us.
What's so funny is when we go to meet somebody, right? We pick our hand out. We say, hey, I'm Jill. Hey, how are you? Oh my gosh. And we ask these 2 questions immediately. Are you married and do you have kids? And I say this to everyone too, because I have a girlfriend of mine who she's desperately praying for that man, that amazing man that's going to come into her life. But one of the first things we say as women, and we don't mean it out of any harm, is, oh, are you married? We have no idea if her husband just cheated on her. We have no idea what just happened, what relationship she came out of. We have no idea what went on. And so we don't think these little conversation starters are triggers for people, but for someone who was a mother in waiting for a long time, they're massive triggers. And I've learned that more in my community of infertility. And this has been a ministry and an outreach in my life. That question of, do you have kids, is a big trigger. And it makes me emotional today because you just don't want, you don't want to unload on somebody. And people see me now with my son. They say, oh, is it your first? What do you say? Do you stop in the middle of Walmart and say, well, I got 3 more waiting for me in heaven?
That's still tough to listen to.
Yeah, sure is.
And actually, I believe the week that we are recording this, it's National Infertility Awareness Week as well. And I know actually quite a few people who have been mama in waitings, and also mamas who decided we're not going to do the treatments and things like that. We're just going to do life like this. And that is a brave decision in itself. And there are so many resources now. You could just search infertility on Instagram or Facebook, and you can find people. If this is something
That's what Jill does now, is she is encouragement to other mamas in waiting.
Yeah. And she does it so well. She gives advice to people like this who have not experienced it, but do have friends or may not know somebody. You know, like she said, we don't realize that little things, are you married?
Yeah.
Can be such a big trigger for somebody. And that's
the best that we can do is just say, hey, tell me about yourself. Because in those first 2 seconds, you know, they're going to say, oh, I'm married, I have kids, and this is what I do.
Yeah.
Then you know enough about them to have that conversation without giving the trigger.
Or picking and choosing what they get to tell you. That's kind of something that we don't really think about. Okay. So we are going to go backwards even further and go back to episode number 3. This one was boundaries, talking about boundaries because
more specifically boundaries around the holidays.
Right.
But what came out of it was just setting boundaries. And I think that's where people were loving the message and
resonating with it. Yeah, absolutely. So we are going to play
a favorite clip.
Like, I have so much to do. I need to get home, blah, blah, blah. And she goes, honey, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. I was like, hey, that is a good way to look at it. Like, if you aren't saying like, yeah, this is something I want to do, I need to do, it's going to bring joy to me, my family, or my marriage, whatever, then that's the boundary. You say no and you don't go.
A lot of times we convince ourselves that we need to do something when we don't need it.
I think this is one that like you and I refer to and share with a lot with people is, I mean, especially since you shared that story with me. I mean, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. I don't need, and that has been a learning thing again for us in the last 5 months about where can we expand our bandwidth? Where can we minimize? Like there are things that rob us of our peace. There are pieces of our previous selves that we have let go and go. That's no
it's
more
not serving us anymore. We're done. That boundary is in place and I'm not going back there. My time isn't going to be sucked into there again. That relationship that doesn't bring me value, I'm not going back to that again. Like boundaries are bigger than, I mean, this concept is something that I want you to go back and listen to the episode and apply it in your whole life, not just the holidays.
Yeah, for sure. Because it is something we forget. You don't have to be friends with everybody. And friends is such a overused word, just as much as love is, right? Yeah. And love can be love is also like, I love tacos. Well, I also love you. Those are 2 very different types of love. And that's
pretty close though.
It is pretty close. I mean, add a margarita in there and woo, trifecta. And we are happy. Tracy, Tori, and tacos.
Oh, that's a fun one.
Maybe we'll record an episode while we're eating tacos. I think, no, y'all don't need to hear that. We'll just be... But we think that to be friends with somebody, that means that we have to go to everything that they've invited us to, that we have to call them on the weekly, you know, and go to this, and this, and this. Mm-hmm. And when friendship really can be, true friendship can be, hey, once a month we get to have coffee.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's intentionality, and that's what that boundary is. Like it's all friendships are a 2-way street. And that's the hardest part is, you know, sometimes when you start to have those feelings of like, hey, I haven't talked to that person in a really long time. And then you let that go. That's you giving up on that friendship. That's not them giving up on the friendship. When you had that feeling, trust me, I mean, with the crazy schedules that we have, it is really hard to send that text or to make that phone call or to schedule that coffee or that Zoom. But
I mean, I know mamas who have actually messaged other mamas going, oh my God, you're just too busy for me.
Yeah. Wrong, rude.
You're so popular. And I'm like, I don't have time for that. That's trying to guilt me into something. Mm-hmm. That's
passive aggressive.
That's passive aggressive. And I don't need to play that game with you. And God created for us to have inner circles, community, but your inner circle doesn't have to be 50 freaking people. I mean, we forget that it doesn't have to be like you're going to have your your handful of core, and then you're going to have just these other little pockets. I mean, I can name on one hand the people that if I don't talk to them for 3 months, I could call them today and it is exactly the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I can also name probably on both hands, both feet, and probably my dog's paws about the people that are like, you know, who want to take it personally, you know, who judge me because of it, or it's
Maybe
not
you
the
should
same.
go back and listen to the episode Unoffended.
Maybe I should.
Not you. Oh, all those people on your fingers and toes.
Yeah, all those people on and my dog's fingers and toes.
Yes. Well, let's just rephrase that this is work in progress for us, and that we can speak on this because we've processed this all. And this podcast has actually helped us set those boundaries and helped us stand in that place of, hey, I don't need to feel guilty. I don't need to be shamed. I don't need to shame other people. We just need to live in community, doing the best we can with intentionality and boundaries. And that will keep us in our safe place and pouring into our family where we're supposed to be first.
Right. And we're not perfect at it. Like
Exactly.
it still hurts. It still sucks when you get that text and you're, you know, felt like, oh man, I didn't do this or whatever.
Or I forgot to text them back. Yep. It happens.
So anyways, that one is a really good one to listen to and not just for the holidays.
Yes. All right. Well, a couple more we want to just chat about, having had our husbands on in part 1 and part 2 in the messes and blesses of marriage. And really, we don't have a clip for this one. You got to go back and listen to both of them. It's full of so much just fun and laughter. And
I don't think we've ever laughed as much.
I know, not on one episode as we did with those men.
But also, can you imagine what if we had, I mean, because let's see, I want to say episode 13, we were still recording in the closet. We have since upgraded ourselves, y'all. We are now in my basement bedroom. But could you imagine having the guys in the closet with us sitting on the floor?
They wouldn't do it.
I think Andrew would just look at it and be like, you need to clean out all of this.
Which you did. Let's just talk about how you cleaned your closet because of the podcast.
Oh, Lord. You know, you clean when you get that spring clean feeling, right? You clean when you move. You clean when you all of a sudden have dropped a pant size and now you want to drop every single, like any pant size that's above that. You're like, out.
I'm never going back.
I'm never going back. But yeah, I had to legit clean the closet on multiple occasions. Also, this is how nerve wracking it was to have a news crew.
Yeah, in your house and in your closet. Yeah, thank you for hosting that one.
Yeah, I was like, oh, wow, that was an uncomfortable moment.
Yeah, it was good though. But the husbands episodes were, I think, one of the things that we really, we touched heavily on really just the last 2 years of marriage and pandemic and parenting and dating. And I think what was so encouraging for you and I was hearing them and their perspective and how they would talk about us and the podcast. Because when we're talking about them, it's not the same way that they talk to just us as they were on the podcast. So it was special.
Yes, it definitely was. And we may or may not have more of them in the future. So you'll just have to stay tuned to see if you did enjoy your time with Chris and Andrew, that there will be a way for you to get more of them.
Yes.
In the future.
Yep. It'll be great.
Yes.
So we want to just touch real quickly before we wrap up this highlight episode and talk a little bit. Tori's going to touch on a couple things, but the growth that we've had from going originally, we took this class and we were like, okay, we're going to buy these microphones. So we bought the same microphone. Well, guess what? When you buy the same microphone and hook it up to a laptop, it doesn't know the difference.
It doesn't. And you don't know the difference either.
So
I have never geeked out. Andrew, I think, was looking at me like, who are you? When all of a sudden I am researching things and mixers and podcasts and equipment and how to use a mixer and then what the benefit of this is, or why can't we just continue to record from Zoom and with the quality? Like, I've never geeked out so hard.
Yeah. And I'm so thankful to you for being the nerd that did that, because I was like, I just want to plan and I want to talk and I want to record. And you're like, okay, we have to have something to record on. So this is what we need
Which
now.
is funny. I'm not the planner and you so are. And so it was just a space where I was like, okay, when you listen back to quality, okay, which are trailer, our intro and our outro, you guys, if you listen to that, like today, the quality is just so different. And the way we speak, the way we're comfortable in front of a mic, there's been a lot of growth in that. But
yeah, well, in the episode clip that we shared of Stephanie's episode, like the interruption, like we were only on one microphone, so our editor couldn't pull out the interruption because it was too close to the content.
Oh, yeah.
So now when we interrupt each other, which we do all the time, Craig can go, shut your hushes, your your or nope or whatever. He can take all those out.
And we're so incredibly thankful for Craig. Craig was a godsend from the get-go. Y'all, I mean, if you ever have any interest on starting a podcast, I'd be happy to mentor you and help you do it because one, I've just found this to be so fun, such a growth experience.
Yeah.
Getting uncomfortable, realizing that it's not as easy as it looks.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was another thing about having our husbands on it. I mean, we started with the one microphone and the two microphones on Zoom, and then to have a mixer and now four microphones on a very steady card table.
Yes.
With folding chairs. Yeah.
I can't wait until like a year out and 2 years out and we've got our own studio. And
oh, Lord. I can only imagine. I can't wait.
Dream. But that's what we must do is keep dreaming.
Yep. And we know, I mean, if God wants to shut this door, he'll shut it.
Yep.
He'll make it abundantly clear because Tracy and I are both blonde, and sometimes we need the 2x4 message versus the shh, girls, I need you to stop.
Nope. He's made it very clear just in all the years that this has fallen on and just the blessings that have come from it and just the vision that we've created just from attending the virtual conference that we did last month. I mean, it gave us we're so excited for our summer series.
Y'all, it is going to be so good. I mean, and that's the other thing we want you guys to know too, is that this isn't just two mamas who are sitting down who just all of a sudden just start chit-chatting. Each and every episode is prayed over. Like content is prayed over. Guests are prayed over. We talk about like what is value, what you guys want versus what we're wanting to share. There's so much in this that it's not just we show up on a Tuesday, sit in front of the microphone for 45 minutes and chit chat, but we figure out and talk about it. And so one, we want you to know that because we take this seriously and have a heck of a lot of fun doing it seriously.
Yes, I am.
But two, we love y'all's feedback.
Yeah.
We want to know what kind of guests do you guys want to listen to? What kind of scenarios or circumstances are y'all having issues with? Because we're doing this for y'all and ourselves. God has blessed us with being able to be just one step in front of some of our listeners. And that's all we're not miles away from y'all.
Nope.
Not even close.
If you see us in public, if you're local, you know.
Yeah, we are.
We're still hot messes.
I'd like to share with you the fact that we're both wearing sweatshirts and sweatpants to this. Like, this is not a doll-up moment by any means. And so it's been a huge blessing, and we're so incredibly thankful for y'all, all 47 of you. I'm still going to go back to that.
Yeah, if anybody caught some of those previous episodes, that was Tori's joke. And I think 47 is just going to be I don't know. We're going to have to celebrate that number at some point.
Can I tell it? Yes, we will celebrate that. But can I tell you where that comes from? And if you are a Texas person and you ever listen to the Kid Craddock in the Morning Show, it is a shout back to that. They would always joke that they always had just 47 listeners. And it's a massive nationwide syndicated radio show. And they always just talked about 47 listeners. And
that's hilarious.
So if you've ever listened to the Kid Craddock Morning Show, that is where that comes from.
That's funny. I didn't even know that. I thought you just made that number up.
I know. I couldn't take credit for it forever.
Yeah. Just so you guys, are aware, our summer series is coming. We'll launch our trailer on May 24th, and then we're going to kick it off on June 7th. And it'll be 8 to 9 episodes. We aren't quite sure. We're going to run it through the summer, June, July at least. We'll see how far we get with that. And in the meantime, we are going to re-release on Tuesdays a few of our episodes we think that y'all should listen to if you haven't already.
Or share with a friend.
Yep. Share with a friend. So our call to action in this episode and our final 25 is to please tell us your favorite episode. And if you haven't already, please write us a review on Apple. Give us some 5 stars because we will be reading some reviews this summer.
Yes, we will. And we are so excited, you guys. We can barely contain it. We are having to zip our mouth shut because we are so excited about this because we would just spill all the beans with you.
Yes, it's going to be great. So thank you so much, Housewives. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Housewives.
Are all in this mom and game together.
Yep. No matter how. Hold on. Let me rephrase that. No matter. I don't know.
No matter what.
No matter what. No matter how different it looks for you. Like your house doesn't look the same. You know what I mean? Like your family doesn't look the same. That's what
Yeah, your family doesn't look the same.
No.
We're just going to leave that. Okay.
Yeah, okay. You can do it that way if you will, Craig. Thanks.
Whether we made you laugh or cry today, we pray you feel appreciated, bolder and braver than yesterday, stronger and more faithful for tomorrow, but living in who you were made to be today. Join our online community on Facebook. Find our link in the show notes.
Be sure to review and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you enjoy listening. Until next time, Housewives, we give you permission to walk confidently, freely, and be intentional in your slippers or stilettos.